You know when you see a competitive bodybuilder on stage? You're looking at the absolute peak of what the human body can do with muscle. But have you ever really stopped to think about what it takes to get there? I can tell you it is way more than just a few months of hitting the gym hard. So what is the secret, right? Is it just about lifting heavy things and chugging protein shakes? Or is there a precise, almost fanatical science behind sculpting a body to that kind of extreme? Well, that's what we're going to dig into. And to figure this out, we're not just guessing. We're actually diving into a big scientific review that looked at all the available data on how these top-tier bodybuilders train. This is what the research tells us about their incredibly structured methods. Okay, so the first thing you have to get your head around is that a bodybuilder's year is anything but random. It is a meticulously planned cycle, broken down into 4 distinct seasons, and each one has a very, very specific goal. You should think of it less like just working out and more like a year-long strategic campaign. Now, before we go any further, let's nail down the key term here: muscle hypertrophy. It's just the fancy scientific name for what this is all about, making individual muscle cells physically bigger. Literally every single thing a bodybuilder does is designed to maximize this one biological process. So let's start with phase 1, the off-season. If you think of a bodybuilder as a sculptor, this is the phase where they are just gathering as much clay as they possibly can. The single-minded focus here is building the raw material. That means gaining maximum muscle mass, period. And the science shows a really clear protocol for this. We're talking heavier weights, aiming for that 7 to 12 rep range, which is pretty much the sweet spot for muscle growth. Now, look at those rest periods, 1 to 2 minutes. That is crucial. That long rest lets them recover almost fully between sets, so they can lift as heavy as possible every single time. And the minimal cardio? Oh, that's completely on purpose. Every calorie is being funneled into building muscle, not burning it off on a treadmill. Okay, so after all that building, we hit phase 2, the pre-contest period. The clay has been gathered, now it is time to start chiseling the sculpture. The entire philosophy flips on its head. It's no longer about building mass, it's all about revealing the detail by shredding body fat. And you can see that massive shift right here on this chart. The primary goal flips from muscle gain to fat loss. To make that happen, the weights get lighter, the rep range goes up to keep the muscles working, and look at this, the rest intervals are cut in half to jack up the metabolism. And cardio? It goes from almost 0 to sky high. This is a complete and total strategic overhaul. And let's be clear, this phase is unbelievably intense. This isn't your average diet. It starts 3 to 5 months before a show, and it means putting your body into a severe calorie deficit while also doing huge amounts of cardio. It's an absolute grind, both physically and mentally. All right, now we get to the most critical, most delicate part of the whole year, peak week. This is the last 7 days before they step on stage. All the heavy lifting, literally, is done. This is all about applying the final polish, those tiny touches to get that impossibly sharp, dry look. And the strategy here is just a masterclass in manipulating your own body. First, they slash their training volume way down. Why? To get rid of any inflammation that might blur their definition. Then, they completely deplete their muscles of carbs for a few days, only to then aggressively carb load right before the show. This makes the muscles super full and pop. And at the same time, they're playing with water and sodium levels to literally pull water from under the skin. It's wild. But what happens after the show is over and the lights go down? That brings us to phase 4, the post-contest period. This is the absolutely crucial and honestly the most overlooked part of the cycle, recovery. The body has been pushed to the brink and now it has to be carefully put back together. And recovery can go one of 2 very different ways. In a best-case scenario, the body's key markers can bounce back to normal within about a week. But the research also shows the dark side, cases where severe overtraining symptoms, we're talking fatigue, low mood, and strength levels that are still below baseline, can drag on for more than 6 months. It just shows you the incredible stress this whole process puts on the human body. So let's pull back for a second. We've walked through the 4 seasons of a bodybuilder's year. What's the big picture here? And what does it all really mean? This timeline really lays it all out. It is a relentless, year-long cycle. You've got the off-season for building, the pre-contest for revealing, and that insane peak week for refining. All of it building to one single day on stage. And then the cycle starts all over again with that tough but essential recovery period. But here's a fascinating twist that the scientists themselves point out. They admit that there is a glaring lack of data on what these athletes are actually doing. So, in a way, the science is still playing catch up to the real world practices being perfected in gyms all over the planet. So, if you take one thing away from all of this, let it be this: a championship physique is the furthest thing from an accident. It is the direct result of a super-structured, periodized plan that strategically messes with every variable you can think of, from rep sets to grams of carbs and even sips of water. And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Bodybuilding is basically a series of N of 1 experiments on the absolute outer limits of human physiology. So, as science keeps studying these extreme methods, what new secrets might they unlock about muscle gain, fat loss, and performance that could maybe benefit all of us?